Hello. Today I'll be covering something of interest that was brought up to me by someone in our community, and that is a calc someone else did involving the Chibaku Tensei that sealed Kaguya. If you've seen a lot of my videos, you'll know that I always say to ask me questions if you have any, and that I'll answer. Well, I honestly do get quite a few questions, and I always do my best to answer, almost always getting to all of them, honestly. If I don't know, I tell you as much, and I just move on from there. But if I do know the answer to your question or have thoughts about it or whatever, I've always put in the work and addressed many never shown on channel things. But this time I realized it's like, why not just cover this in a video? And so that's what we'll be doing today. Before we begin, just the easiest disclaimer ever. Obviously, none of this is meant towards the person who did this or anything. I'm simply covering the calc done. So I will pull up things that I think are silly or maybe even ridiculous in terms of like what was calced and the work actually done or the logic actually put in it. Not that the person is in any shape or form X, okay? So it's just about the work. That said, additionally, there's a lot of people who do calcs and do not do any of the scaling, or they're interested in what-if scenarios. I've seen plenty of people do calcs where they take things as true simply so they can calc, because otherwise it is such an assumption. And plenty pointed out. I don't think this one did point it out, but all I'm saying is at the end of the day, I'm taking this calc as what's actually being put forth and stated within it, and I'm addressing those things. And then the methods used, if it's, I did take it where the methods used was such that they are arriving to a true conclusion. Now, again, I don't know if they actually, I don't think they ever assert that this is the true conclusion, but I will say, if the things they were asserting were true, then their math is fine. The whole thing is fine. But you'll be seeing me address what I would consider quite ridiculous things to assert as true. Whether they are taking that or they were simply using these things, assertions, so they had a thing to calc. Hope I made that clear. We'll now be jumping into the actual calc itself. From the start, we can follow their calc and layout, and he mentions what we know in the starter section. That is, Hamura plus Hagoromo sealed Kaguya away via the same sealing that we saw Sasuke and Naruto use from Hagoromo's power when he lent it to them. The Chibaku Tensei in this case turned Kaguya herself into the core of the Chibaku Tensei. We also know that Hamura and his descendants, like Toneri, lived on the moon. What is unknown, because this is going to be something that's important going forward. What size was Kaguya during the time? Was she in her beast form? Does the size, because her human form and her beast form are vastly different sizes. That's why I'm saying what size was she? So was she in her beast form? And does size correlate to the size of the Chibaku Tensei, given that she was the core? The other unknown is, in what time did they get to where the moon is? And that's a huge one. And additionally, like, how far is the moon? But the big one is, in what time did the moon actually get to where it was? This does get addressed later. Just know, right now, it's kind of a dead giveaway of where this is going to go, because I'm putting it in the unknowns category. Let's continue on. So next in their section, we have them having the moon ang-sizing. All right, so they are using angular sizing to try and pixel scale the actual size of the planet from this shot of the movie. Okay, what problems might come from this? Well, right off the bat, I'll say the crazier a claim, the higher the burden of proof is. In fiction, we know that destroying X thing, given, let's say, a mountain, we know that destroying a mountain is whatever level of impressive that it is, because we have a basis by which we can judge that feat. Real life being that basis. In fiction, a mountain could be the size of a universe, or the size of an anthill, and maybe the whole verse is really tiny. Fictionally speaking, any verse could be any size. We all should know this. But what you do then is have a basis from where we can start. That for everyone is that real life is the basis. And if shown a deviation from that, then that means we have proof of the actual deviation. Gravity could be different. Water could naturally melt steel. The Earth planet could be star-sized. All could be true, but to use a size or property outside the real-life basis, you need proof that points away from the starting basis itself. Think something like One Piece, or especially like Toriko makes it very clear. Naruto, not so much. But we can see here he specifically puts, like in my previous blog, I sized the Naruto planet. And I found its polar diameter as well, which came out to this many kilometers at its poles. Now, let's dissect that number. All right, so if the starting basis is real-life Earth, then we need to see something that dictates that it is not grounded in our real-life Earth basis, okay? So something is showing that it's not the case. He's claiming that the Naruto Earth is this many kilometers for its polar diameter, or this many times longer than the real-life Earth's polar diameter. Taken as a sphere, he is claiming that Naruto's Earth as a volume is a whopping this many times larger planet than real-life Earth. That number there, that many times larger than Earth, is over 5 times larger than even Neptune. So let's go over the proof that actually would suggest that it's not just Earth based on the real life basis, aka it's just the size of Earth. So what is he going to go? All right, so we click on that Naruto planet link and we will get to sizing the enemy hideout. Right off the bat, his proof involves pixel scaling a map. Oof. Okay. Well, do we have a basis of maps being detailed to a proper and real measuring or scaling of the world it's representing? Yeah, we do actually. Is that the norm? No, not even close. It's very far from the norm. Do we also have a basis of maps not being detailed to a proper and real measuring or scaling of the world it's representing? Obviously, again, as I was just saying, yeah, that's the case. That'd be most maps, in fact. So does this mean the Naruto map is wrong? No, it means we don't know if it's accurately capturing the world it's supposed to represent or not. Or even if so, to what degree. It means we shouldn't look to this map as any guide to determine our truth claims of the world's actual size, let alone pixel scale it. But if we're going to try and then argue from a probabilistic outlook and how likely is it to be on the side of accurate depiction of the world compared to not accurate, let's get into that. One, again, like I said, most maps are not accurate. But two, you know that flat maps aren't the same as globes, right? Okay, so globes, they exist, and they are far more accurate because it's literally impossible to create an absolutely accurate map. That's why I say how accurate is it to what degree. But it is impossible to create an absolutely accurate map via flattening out the Earth's landmass. And guess what? Globes wouldn't even be accurate to Earth down to pixel scaling. He is pixel scaling a flat map. Okay? So essentially, using this flat map, let alone the pixel scaling, it is a huge red flag in terms of accuracy. From here, from this map, trying to get the size of the planet, because all of this ends up mattering, we then see another link talking about the distance between basically the sand and the leaf. So we're going to go on to that. And his claim ultimately is that the distance between the sand and leaf is this many kilometers. His proof is the novel, secondary canon, to the primary canon, the manga. And it's that novel's statement, not a feat, about how shinobi are faster than horses, more tenacious than camels, etc. Additional statement about how it took 3 days to get there for multiple times, and that's the thing that's actually backed by panels. Okay, well, what are the problems with this? Right out the gate, this is extremely weak evidence, and I'll break down why. This is due to multiple things, like, say, interpretive takes on what the novel meant, but there's another huge problem I'll get to after. First, interpretations. You can lowball to the speed of a horse like he did. That's a good thing to do because lowballing gives you guaranteed minimums. We want that for actual truth values and not guesses. Faster than a horse is even backed up via feats. But that's where it ends. More tenacious than a camel is not only not proven via any feats, it's even only contradicted by travel feats from the original actual canon, the primary canon, from, say, 1010 and other things. Assuming there's no stops is what it is. That's what's happening here. Taking that as is true is silly. The primary canon never suggests it, never backs it, and shows the opposite rather than what's claimed in the secondary canon. Next issue before the big one is that ninja ranks don't dictate minimum stats. They don't dictate speed, strength, etc. Shikamaru, for instance, didn't gain stat buffs as soon as he became a Chunin before everyone else, for example. So, saying shinobi as a whole, or ninja as a whole, or even if you were to say Genin as a whole, even if you were to go that specific, using them as a whole and applying the novel claim to the 3-day travel of specifically those traveling it is also not geared towards accuracy. But lastly, the big one. Look at the map again. Besides water and the borders, it literally doesn't show any terrain. Consider 2 trains racing side by side, going 500 kilometers an hour or something from the Leaf to the Sand Village. Train 1 goes straight at all times, while Train 2 has to go up and down every single mountain it comes across to get there. I'm not saying there are mountains there. It could be any myriad of things, because we don't get to see it. But in this scenario, there is terrain getting in the way of Train 2. Who gets there first? It's obvious, and it highlights, for the purpose, you can't ignore terrain. Train 1 gets there faster because of the difference in terrain. So you can't just ignore terrain, especially because you may actually have to go around things and not even just over things. So I understand the novel brings up their legs as the most reliable means of travel, and that they flew across the seas of sand with ease. But this again is ninja or shinobi, not specific characters, and more importantly, doesn't dictate terrain not causing a slowdown of travel. I'll keep going for the specifics in this. In 1920, if you were to go where there isn't any roads or set path, like the novel is hinting at, your own legs would be more reliable than the early car. You wouldn't be faster than the normal car, and you would still be slowed down by terrain. Legs still more reliable than car. More reliable doesn't dictate that they didn't slow down from terrain. What does this mean? It means it could take 3 days for a variety of reasons stated above, that all wouldn't require the distance being claimed, and the claimed distance relies on assumptions, such as they actually did hold top speed the entire time, plus so many others. A flat map, pixel scaling off flat map, secondary canon statement over primary canon showings, and etc. Last thing, the sea of sand with ease. Cool, but we don't know how big this sea of sand is. We don't know how many dunes there were. We don't know if there was any other terrain outside of the sea of sand that they could have been traveling, and we're just assuming, all of this is going to apply directly to their travel to the land of sand, right? But they're traveling not from within the land of sand, like it's all just a sea of sand. Their travel could have any amount of terrain slowing them down. Okay, so after that, we have all those issues. We next get to this section here, Hideout to Planet. And I typed this up in all caps. I'll really try, and I'm not going to yell, but oh my gosh. I mean, I'm leaving it up on screen for you now. You should see the same issue. Do you see what he's doing right here? Okay, alright. He actually assumed the area he's pixel scaling from a movie shot is the hideout spot from the flat map. Oh my gosh. Like this right here, what he's doing right here goes into the calc as a whole. This is beyond terrible in terms of a guaranteed minimum, like the low ball that we want to do. For the exact reason and logic you would use the horse speed to find the unknown amount faster than a horse from before, you don't just assume like this. You think you found the actual part on the flat map there? How in the world could you possibly know? That is an insane guess. You are not finding necessary minimums. You might as well say, oh, faster than a horse, well then their light speed is like, that might actually be more logical than this right here. This is crazy. So yeah, this is an insane amount of assumptions and guesswork. I'll make my own claim here. All right, so far with this whole thing, if you take it as a what if, could be, perhaps, maybe, wouldn't it be cool if type of deal, this calc is interesting. I do find like how big is the planet sort of things interesting. But in terms of what size is Naruto Earth, this is just so far removed from finding a proper truth value for the actual size. So, lastly, we get to his gravitational binding energy, GBA. We just see that it's based on the extremely assumptuous, like faulty size that he came up with. And faulty I'm not going to claim again that he is wrong. He may have found on that shot there the actual part on the flat map, and the flat map could be, it's a fictional map. We don't know. Maybe it is perfect down to the pixel scaling. But all I'm saying is, when we're looking at necessary truth values, and I've said this a million times, we need to have a basis by which we judge something as being as accurate and consistent as possible. And we do have different bases that we can hit to actually do that. And we do this sort of things across life all the time. This ain't it. The huge assumptions, just because they could be right, no way in hell is this the most accurate and consistent way of being right. And so, don't take this as me claiming he is wrong, okay? But if this is going to be the calc that somebody or anybody would ever stand by and say is right, you are out of your mind, okay? That's my claim, just like we saw in the debate, all right? Because that's how I am with these things. The only time I'll say is going to be from a standpoint of is at least X. I'm finding those minimums, okay? So that's just for me. Again, there in GBE based on the really assumptuous size that he came up with. So this all comes back to his Aang-sizing of the moon from the movie. It's all predicated on an extremely assumptuous, faulty size via everything addressed before. Next, we have another huge assumption. The time frame of the moon moving to where it was. He claims 15 seconds to 2 minutes. The proof for this, I actually don't know. There isn't any. Words like fast or anything are even subjective and such. And I didn't even see that in the primary canon. I don't know if it was in the novel. I don't remember specifics or something that is using like a word fast. We obviously don't have an actual direct time frame. They're straight up, as far as I'm aware, there isn't any proof or even like evidence to suggest 15 seconds to 2 minutes. He says, considering that the Chibaku Tensei was put up in a somewhat timely manner, we can use 3 time frames for what does this service. But we don't see a timely manner at all. In fact, you looking at the feet, it looks like it takes a good decent time before it would have even reached our stratosphere, which is a mere 50 kilometers, mind you. And hell, we didn't even see it reach there. But we're not talking about the stratosphere, or 50 kilometers. We're talking about 382,000 500 kilometers if we're talking about real life moon, or for him, he put 344,490 kilometers for his calc. 15 seconds to 2 minutes, we have no idea if it even took hours. And this is for the feat we actually saw with Naruto and Sasuke using the exact same technique. For the Hamura and Hagoromo one, I truly have no idea where he's getting a time frame from. Very last thing I'll mention here is the total joules in this feat. While I haven't calced it myself here, in calcing the feat, the total joules via it moving to X position in no way whatsoever would correlate to AP. The person who did the calc doesn't claim it does, from what I saw. I just wanted to address it though. When I bring up the AP of the Chibaku Tenseis in my videos, I'm specifically talking about the destruction caused via sucking everything up to the original sized core. So, like any general feat, amount of destruction, type of destruction, volume of the attack causing the destruction, etc. to find the AP. Because that is how AP would be applied here. That is what the potency of it is doing to the surroundings, characters, what the durability of things needing to actually resist the destruction. It's the potency of an attack in a way. Not moving, not just simply moving, okay? If we saw, say, Almighty Push, unironically pushing the moon away to the distance that it did, then we could talk AP of that move. Because now that move is something that we've seen applicable to an actual combat, to an actual move for fighting. But in this case, no, this is non-applicable in any way, the movement part, to AP. So in conclusion, all I can say about this calc is that this ain't it. As far as this feat goes, to AP, this ain't it for sure. It literally doesn't even correlate whatsoever to AP. So the calc ain't it, the feat ain't it. That is my full conclusion. I hope this answers everything that the original person who asked the question wanted to know. And for everybody who watched, I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, like I always say, please like the video and comment and subscribe. If you comment, again, I will 99 times out of 100, I will answer. Sometimes YouTube does this thing where somebody asks a question and I see it on my little bell, but then it just disappears. Like it doesn't bring me to where that comment is to where I can reply. Sometimes that happens. That's even the vast majority of the reasons why I might not comment back, rather than me just straight missing it. So again, I'll reiterate one last time for the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Helps the channel grow, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Ciao.